What does it mean to have
Are
no
you for
principles?
corporate honor?
I want to
You
know
have
what
no
the definition
honor,
you're
Alu!
operating on. I apparently have no honor. What does it mean to have no principles?
Are you for corporate
He's
lobbying?
just asking if you think that teachers' unions should be able to lobby for higher wages. And if so, are you also for corporations being able to do that? It's a very simple question.
Voucher system. I actually like the voucher system because I think it mixes the private market and the fucking public system, where there's incentives in order to hold people accountable and develop correct institutions. And all that kind of stuff.
Would you call it a public-private partnership, maybe? Like a marriage of the corporation and the state?
Position. Yeah. So anyways.
Fucking fascist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so let's get cracking. Topic 1. I'm not even sure because I always like use the second topic as like, oh, I think it's the spiciest topic, but with this crowd, I'm actually not sure which one that will be. All right, we'll try the public sector unions are a matter of perennial political debate. Proponents argue that they are the most effective way for labor to protect themselves and raise their wages. Detractors say that unions make services more expensive and less responsive to reasonable operational pressures. What's your opinion on public sector unions? Should they be banned or at least have their powers greatly diminished? Do you believe that any problems that they may cause can be solved with simple reforms, or are public sector unions generally a positive force in our society? So yeah, I saw an article on the Daily Beast. And it sparked this. We talk about these things all the time, generally in this political sphere, and like I think we'll have some surprise opinions from people around here. So I'm really interested in jumping in. So Lactoid, Alu, if you could mute yourself when you're smoking or something, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lactoid.
Yeah. So when you have a union that dictates the wages, protections, and benefits of state actors, you quite literally have the state dictating the power of the state, which is the basis of authoritarianism. Now, recently, there has been some question on this, right? So you have Janus versus AFS-CME, which did limit public sector unions' ability to brazenly push political positions based on the principle of they are the state. And this would be infringing upon First Amendment liberties, which is good, but it only limits the problem. It doesn't eliminate it. And here's another example of a bad public sector union: police unions, right? We criticize police unions a lot. They are bad, but they're bad just on a different scale, but for the same reason that every other public sector union dictating terms to the voter is bad. These people should be accountable to the public if they're truly public sector workers. If we're going to pretend to live in a democracy, then the democracy should be one setting the terms of public employment. Finally, public unions suffer from a unique problem that private unions don't. In a private union, if the union's demands are unreasonable or destructive, the company will eventually go out of business. There is a natural stop point, the destruction of the company. These issues don't exist for public sector unions, as the government can't go out of business. They'll just simply levy a larger amount of resources from the public to fund themselves. The very last point, Reagan firing the air traffic controllers was the best thing he ever did, both empirically and principally. Look into it. He was fucking based for doing that. So.
Thank you so much. Okay, Scott, please.
Yes, to everything he said, but I'll add another layer of libertarianism to it and say that public sector unions are inherently violent. Because they actively advocate taking people's tax money whenever they engage for wage increases, which ultimately requires the enforcement of violence on people, or at the very least, armed men ready to commit violence for forcible seizure of property should you not pay. The second thing I would like to add is that while unions in and of themselves are perfectly reasonable and not a violation of the non-aggression principle, so long as we ban their ability to use funds towards buying politicians and lobbying, and so long as we get rid of the National Labor Review Board, There's nothing wrong with them in that regard. Unions are a destructive force, not only for the economy, not only for the freedom of everyone, as they are some of the biggest purveyors of communist thought economically, but they are also bad for the employees. Overwhelmingly, unions have held us back and helped destroy the economy. They take credit for things that they never did, such as giving us the weekend, such as reducing work hours, such as safety regulations in work. These are just additional things that the state imposed that are less effective than what the market was already doing. To quote Rothbard, in the capitalist society, there prevails a tendency towards a steady increase in the per capita quota of capital invested. Consequently, the marginal productivity of labor, wage rates, and the wage earners' standard of living tend to rise continually. Literally everything that unions have taken as a victory that they've done has been an utter failure. They've only simply added government regulation that has made it less effective. And they are constantly at odds against the betterment of the people in the union, trying to get things like Luddite things of getting rid of automation or fighting to make sure that machinery or vehicles aren't used because it takes away their jobs. Meanwhile, what this does is it increases the value of labor, despite the fact that it does cause some people to leave, and the marginal utility of their labor goes up, which means the economy is stronger, which means wages are stronger. And so they actively fight against themselves with communist rhetoric that is just a destructive force for the country.
Thank you so much. Rez.
Yeah, no union should ever exist that exists outside of the purview of the law. Police unions are not legitimate unions. Any entity that exists within a society should be subject to the rules and regulations of that society. Regardless, I think that every Supreme Court decision that has been made that has gone ahead and basically put police at no ability to have any level of accountability, and the fact that then their bad actions do not come from something that ultimately hurts the people causing those bad actions, but rather the rest of society collectively, is bad. Teachers unions, I'm pretty cool with it. Teachers are doing pretty bad in this country. I think they could probably do better. I think a little selfishness would be great for the people that go ahead and socialize our children. But overall, I think unions are pretty cool. Police unions I don't really view as unions, though. I just look at them as like contracted criminal organizations.
Thank you so much for that. Let's go to our friend Aiko.
I love how the leftist is like, public sector unions are a problem, except when it's the things that agree with my politics.
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like with the balance of this panel, I'm expected to be on the pro-union side, but I actually am pretty union skeptical. The public sector unions that I'm most familiar with are teachers unions. I've been in multiple situations where a teacher who clearly does not need to be in the classroom could not get fired because the primary focus of the believe it or not, we're in Texas, it's a right to work state, but we still have these sort of union representations in the schools that can make it virtually impossible to fire a bad teacher. It's a real problem in our school districts. Maybe it's not to the level of police unions, which are clearly like horribly toxic, but you can see this in the public sector unions all over the place. And I think if I were to go with what's been said before, I would take what Lactoid said, but I would remove the layer that Fabian put on top of it, and I would go back to listen. This is the government. It is a contract that's essentially approved by the people. I can tell you this: the school here in Texas, at least, if a school district is bad, property values drop. So the people do have an interest in keeping good education, and that is something. Unions work best when there's not enough incentives where in the markets where they exist to give them good working conditions. So in the 19th century, unions were absolutely necessary. There was no other layer of protection for them. But we have a lot of layers of protection now through the way our governments are structured that make it less necessary, especially in the public sector unions, where I just the actions, and we can go into more detail on this once we get into it, but the actions that
Speed it
these
up.
people are that these unions are creating try to make workers less responsible for what they do and not more.
For sure. Let's try to make it a bit quicker, guys. And no worries, I'm plenty pro Ian for for us all. I'll balance this out myself. Johnny, please.
Cool. So this is just the anti-union panel now. I do have negative opinions about police unions. However, a lot of my negative opinions are surrounding teachers unions for reasons that have already been sort of enumerated. But another reason would be that teachers unions, there's evidence to say that they create toxic work environments wherein people are expected to do the bare minimum, and anyone who goes above the bare minimum makes everyone else look bad. And so there's this idea that in order to keep the peace with the other teachers in your school, you need to toe the line. There's also the idea that when you are in a public union, there's no company for you to unionize against. You're literally unionizing when you go for higher wages, when you go for what the teachers unions did when they expected to not go back to work for 2 years during COVID. They're going against the taxpayers, literally. And there's no other layer between that. So I have a pretty anti-union, anti-public union rather stance right now as we stand.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to Alu.
You muted.
You muted, friend. Yeah.
My mistake.
There we go.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
No
No, I
problem.
was I don't know. The way a lot of you guys are looking at this is like the unions, these public sector unions are here to leech off the system. I look at it, they are a mechanism of the system. Like when you're at that position, I think it's weird as a libertarian to
Thanks
say
for the
something
follow.
like, you know, they're using tax dollars to leech. You may have a position about, you know, taxes itself, but outside of that, I think they're actually one of the reasons that they're a buff against the state kind of acting unilaterally. Like yes, there are examples of where you have a guy who probably shouldn't be in the service, right? Who is still in the service, but they deal with that in other ways, right? They put them in a position where they can't cause any further harm. When you're dealing with someone who truly can't be fired, on the other hand, there are plenty of cases where the union is. I feel like you're overinflating how much this happens where you have somebody who is negligent, who is like a bad actor in the state.
I feel.
Gets protected by the union. These guys do get hit. Like there's someone I know actually was telling me a story about somebody who was going from field office to field office. He was in a agency and he was stealing. They had a communal system for snacks where they had a mini fridge and they would, you know, put a little bit of money in. And this is a federal office, and he would go from office to office and take $5 here, $5 here, like $200 a month. The guy's making like $80K a year, right? And he got caught and he got fired. And there's nothing the union can do to protect him there. Like there are bylaws to this, right? And I don't know, I just take issue with the premise. Unions are there to integrate with the company, because if the company or the corpus, whether it's private or public, if that fails, the union has nothing and all of its members have nothing, and it is failed as an organization. It has to work in tandem with them. To some degree, that's in their incentive base, right? So to pretend that they're like a system, a leech outside eating away at the biomass of the state or the biomass of a corporation is to ignore that their very incentive is to make a healthier corporation or a healthier state, right?
Thank you so much. Next, we have everyone counterpoints, so I'm so happy to see. Right, this is beautiful, smiling face. Counterpoints, who, I think you were like Doobie's now our most regular chatter. But like before that was counterpoints because he was just so dedicated to this platform. But scheduling things made it difficult for him to be here. But he's here. He'll stop by every so often when he can. Thank you so much for being here, friend.
No, my my very sincere pleasure to see some friendly faces back in the game again. So Johnny, Doobie, iCow, and then Fabian, well met. And then for all the newer people, we'll fight it out and get to know each other. So no, I'm super excited. And then I will, if you'll tolerate me being late. I was in the wage cage up until literally 23 minutes ago. So if you'll tolerate me being late, then I'll be happy to show up at least monthly in order to kind of get the scene going again. I love fighting people. I love having fun. So that's my little intro. I do Warhammer 40,000 videos. Politics is now a side thing for me, but it's still very fun. When it comes to unions, I'm with Alu, based, well met. I think that unions are if you look at it as like a corporative body, there's advocacy that you can have within a corporative body that can be positive and beneficial. And the only people who are in our market right now who have like benefits like retirement and dental and vision and health, they all share one thing in common, and that's the fact that they're union members or they're corporate high level people who actually can afford they will get their benefits paid because
Or
they're
they
the
have
elite.
valuable
Whereas
labor.
all of the plebs basically have rotting teeth, can't afford their own health insurance if they can even get health insurance at all, working for less than subsistence wages, can't survive, can barely pay their bills, can't put their kids into good schools, all that kind of crap. So I would say no. I know that Fabian basically believes that we're in the we've drifted away from the 19th century golden era and now we're in a communist hell. I feel like we're in a 19th century nightmare and we've drifted away from the 1950s and 60s, which was probably like the nice little middle ground of economics and social welfare inside the United States. So I know we'll get into it in the open, and I could keep ranting for another 2 minutes, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up. But I'm very happy to be back.
Well met.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And finally, our Dark Dawn Saver Doobie, please.
I actually don't have a strong position on this. I used to be like very firmly like opposed to public sector unions, but right now I don't really have a firm position. So I guess I'll just wait for you guys to make arguments and figure it out as I go.
Okay, thank you so much. Jump into it.
Yeah, if nobody's going to jump in immediately. So I want the opposite of what somebody else said, where they wanted like the government to regulate everything and then the unions to be disbanded. I think the government is way too centralized and way too like high up in order to see what's going on. A $7 minimum wage in like rural Mississippi might be fine, but a $7 minimum wage in downtown New York is bullshit. And obviously you have the states for this, but basically they're always going to defer to what is like federally permissible. So basically, I think that unions are a good way to parochialize, to break up like power, institution, and negotiation. So it's regional and local, so it addresses the problems of local people.
No, exactly. And this is the reason for it being like that. This goes county to county too, right? If I'm in Northern Virginia, the mindset of the local county and the officials who deal with different aspects of labor, right, are going to have wildly different takes on the matter than if I go to Southern Virginia, right? And I don't know, like during COVID, I know a lot of people who are out west, like Northwest, where it's commie hell or whatever, right? And they're in their industry, one of the few people who were able to like retain their job at the wage that they were at with the hours that they needed, simply because they had someone in the background who was able to advocate for them, right? And then on top of that, I don't know, it just seems like where you have a thriving ecosystem that is like supporting, like he said, regionally what your needs are, where they're needed, like meeting you where you are, it seems like you also get better results. I don't agree with the take that you don't. In the North Pacific, the Northwest, we're talking about Washington, Oregon, there's a chain called Dick's Drive-Thru. They're able to offer $19 an hour. They are able to offer benefits, dental, all of these things. They give you hours, and they're selling burgers, and they're selling burgers for less than $5. Okay, so it's possible to do this, and this is an area that has full structure implementation in regards to unions, in regards to further left economics, and it's still doing things that if you talked about that in the Midwest or the East Coast, they're gonna laugh at you. You're selling burgers for $5, you're paying $19 an hour, and you're giving full benefits and good hours, and this is a cost-efficient business. I don't think corporations like can't do this. I think it's just
Yeah.
regionally like not desired by them to do it. They
No,
don't
And
have an
that's one
incentive.
thing that I'm going to
So I wanna-
ask is
I
I
actually
want
think
to be
corporations.
Let's get Johnny, Johnny,
yeah.
Rez, Scott, Aiko.
I want to be pro-union, right? My mom was a public school teacher. I realize that she's benefited from this system. I want to know from the pro-union guys, like, how do you fix some of these, what seem to be some internal attitude problems, but what also seem to be these widespread issues wherein people are not doing their job correctly and they're just being protected for it. Like, what
you
is the
the
Make it
unions-
easier to fire people
I think it's
and
By
bylaws.
getting rid of the
unions struggle. This isn't the 40s, right, where unions had the ability to kind of self-define. There's massive laws or amount of laws that have like essentially made it illegal to organize as like a union, big U, right? Taft-Hartley, all you go down the list of the kind of bylaws where like you can't wildcat strikes, not allowed. All these things that would kind of have a less at this point, it's like unions are nice, but they've been integrated into the corporate structure, which is, defeats the point of a union.
Let's go to Rez since he's a pro corporate guy.
Yeah,
then we'll go to
so
Scott
I'm
and-
pro union, but no, corporations literally can't help here, right? They're literally obligated by the law not to, right? Like they have the only duty that a corporation owes is to its shareholders and to itself, right? No one else, and they are legally defined by law to have to produce for the shareholders. So no, I don't think to what Ali was saying, I just want to make that quick little rebuttal there that I don't think corporations have any duty, nor can they legally exercise that duty if they wish to in the first place.
If I made it seem like I was saying that the corporation has an incentive to do like to include kindness or empathy towards like class distinctions or anything like that, then my mistake, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that unions have an interest just like the corporation in the success of the corporation, but the unions are in a better position, in a more like incentivized position to actually take a granular look at what workers need in order to be efficient for the company. That's their sole focus, right? It's like HR, but for
their sole focus is to produce value for shareholders. That is literally the sole focus of those companies. Once you have people buying, stocks and shit like that, I don't know how that shit works, right? So that is their only actual obligation.
The company's only obligation. We agree.
Yeah. And so the thing is, like, you're basically what you're going to have to argue is that these systems can be put into place elsewhere, and that's going to provide more for the shareholders, because otherwise you're just going against the law, the written law as it stands, right?
I think it's. I don't think you even have to go there. I think it's about leverage, right? So you have a corporation, and you're right. Its incentive is profit. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that in terms of it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. That is the reason it exists, right? The union being added to this mix puts leverage from below, right? Otherwise, there is no leverage whatsoever, and you're talking about a power structure. So if you have a mini component of this larger whole, which is the corporation, which is the workers, right, who have no autonomy in terms of what things look like down here. Oftentimes, they may have solutions to problems that the upper crust of that company will never hear because of you have bloat, right? A union can effectively communicate, and it does so from the outside of the incentives of the corporation. It does that from its own incentives, which are like in a outer position in relation to the workers.
The thing
With
is,
what
though,
we're
even in
looking
that,
at,
the
this is-
union is still at like the point of making it worth it for the corporation. Because if a corporation has all their workers up and quit, threaten it, whatever, then guess what? That's going to hurt shareholders.
Right,
So it's
right,
still within that same framework, right?
That's where the dance is. The dance is we
I
have
think it's
two
my
opposing
turn.
positions, but we're also obligated to each other. It's mutually assured destruction. So we must democratize, right? We can't kill each other because we both got to live. We both got to eat, right? But we also have fundamentally different incentives. So at the end of the day,
talking about is in the
negotiation.
reverse here, though, because we're talking about public sector unions wherein the value is being taken by the people. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fabian.
Yeah, Scott, and
Yeah,
then Ico.
so
a good
there's
distinction.
a couple of things I want to talk about. Number one, I love that counterpoints when talking about unions brought up minimum wage, right?
Which I want
because
to
this is-
abolish.
Right. We need to abolish minimum wage because minimum wage is stupid and it prices jobs out of the market and reduces labor participation rate, which reduces everybody's wages. But when we're talking about unions, what we're also talking about is different ways that they get around laws that are designed to keep them from being able to donate to politicians by hosting events for politicians or hosting events where politicians campaign. And what we really know is that we're also talking about the way that our politicians are influenced by stupid policies like minimum wage that unions that are predominantly leftist advocate for. The second thing I wanted to say is Alu said that wildcat protests are illegal. And while that's technically true, it kind of misrepresents it a little bit. And I don't know that this is on purpose. I'm just saying they're illegal in the sense that you can be fired for them, which is a huge problem with unions because they have state protection. The state is actively working to support private sector unions as a means of reducing our own economic output and reducing the wages of individuals that exist in America, and destroying, or I should say, throttling our economic growth and activity because they afford them these protections. Wildcat, for example, under the NLRA 35 is deemed something that you can be fired for basically no matter what. So even if you have union protections for strikes, if you do a wildcat strike and you just randomly don't show up for work and you say I'm striking, the company can be like, fuck you,
Do you
you're
know why
fired.
that's the case?
Okay, so
Why what the history there is. So we had
go ahead.
during this was like why I referenced Taft-Hartley, right? Is directly after World War II. And what happened during World War II when you're talking about labor union history
wages
is that you had
increased.
you had a huge that's not what I'm talking about. You had a huge schism in the sphere of labor unionizers where there were a lot of people who were saying, look, we're in wartime, right? This is World War II. We're going to kind of go along with the state and the business side, these two different entities, the state and private, right? We're going to like put the sword down up until the point that this is no longer a thing, right? And you had other factions. This is why you had like the rebellions out in West Virginia,
because
right?
their value,
But
their work was so fucking valuable, right? That wages were increasing,
right?
And
That's
we ended
the
up
point.
creating systems like healthcare and dental care and things like that because of like government caps on
but,
wages.
Okay, let me finish where
because
I was
the work was very valuable.
This is my whole point, right? Is
They
that
didn't need unions,
it wasn't until they kneecapped labor unions after the end of World War II, where they immediately went on President Taft, right, went on to write huge anti-measures against the unions and essentially crippled them as a corporation. The way that these organizations went about things was completely reducted, right? You talk about communist manifestos and all this, right?
Hold on,
the
pause.
union
We're talking about
Amazon.
We're talking about public sector unions, right? And even though the National Education Association is the largest union in the country, right? We've now shifted to primarily talking about private sector unions because you think it makes your argument better. And now we're talking about the history of the unions. Sure,
right.
Let's talk about John Lewis and the coal mining unions. But we're so far off the topic because you're trying to shift it to something that's stronger for your argument.
I'm not shifting. I don't think the distinction between corporate or public, right, matters in terms of what unions do and why they're effective. In the case of the state, it's just
well, if it doesn't
honestly,
matter, then stick to the topic.
Sure. And then we got to move on. We got to move on for now. Let's go to Ico Lactoid. Anyone else? Let me know.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to something Counterpoint said because he was talking about. He said, "Well, the state is like this big sort of national entity, and that unions are going to handle things at the local level." And this is almost this is actually kind of a sort of in Catholic thought too, which is that you should always devolve control down to the smallest unit possible. And I just wanted to say that
the individual.
Yeah, but I disagree with this characterization here that Because yeah, it's true that government sets policy when it comes to public sector like jobs, but most of these jobs that we're talking about are things are set at the municipal level. You're talking about mayors or maybe counties that are setting the policies for schools and for police and for firefighters and for all these other sort of organizations. There are a few exceptions, like there was that Patco strike in the 80s. That was a federal. That was a union, fighting like sort of federal level job employer. But in many cases, it's just the opposite. And then unions themselves are often at the national level. If you go and look at these unions, yeah, you might have a local chapter of a national union, but the policies that are being pushed for are often decided at the national level. So I think if you're going to devolve control to the smaller units, I think you're talking about I think it's better to let cities set those policies rather than unions in many cases, certainly in the case of education.
Yeah, so the one thing that I heard consistently from the anti-union folks is that they liked some aspects, like advocating for better conditions, wages, hours, all that kind of stuff. They were okay with that, but they didn't like defending bad employees. And
Right.
then also, if I'm listening to ICO right now, I'm saying that unions can be parochialized, but the truth is that because they advocate at the federal level, they're not necessarily that way. That's okay. I think this is part of the push and pull of what we need to do as a culture, where if we were to have a serious conversation with teachers, we would say, hey, listen, we love you guys. You're making, 10%, 20% less than you could in the private market. A lot of you are super smart, really well educated, all that kind of shit. But at the same time, like we can't defend shitbags while also paying you $50K a year. We have to have a better mechanism for getting rid of people. But that has to be popularized as a culture. Like we, as the voters, as the local voters, the regional voters, the county voters, we have to be able to hold our powerful people to account. Whereas right now we have this social binary where it's like, well, and I know Johnny Scarlett isn't doing this tonight, but my mom's a teacher or my uncle's a cop and he works his ass off and he's a good person and you just want to take away his union so you can take away his wages so he can die in the fucking gutter without any benefits. Fuck you. Unions forever. Privatize my nuts. Like that's kind of like the reaction that you get from pro-union people. Whereas I think we could have a more subtle conversation.
So you can respond to that, Aiko, if you want to.
Yeah.
Quickly,
No, I agree with that. Like, I do think that another aspect of this conversation would be: are there ways in which unions can, especially public sector unions, can shift the way their conversations are happening? If they want to pay teachers what they're worth, or if they want to fight for, I think they should be fighting for things like smaller classroom size, things like that. Those would be positive things that public unions could push for. In the real world, like we're not going to, like we don't have the fiat power to like make public sector unions go away on this panel. So one of the things that we can argue for is in our local communities, maybe shifting the focus. But I can tell you that in the teachers unions like conflicts that I've had direct experience with, it's always been with regards to standards. Like, can you hold teachers to certain standards in order to pay high performing teachers more? And unions are always against that. They want this sort of flat wage system where everyone gets paid the same thing regardless of the results that they're making, and that can be very frustrating to teachers that want to perform at the higher level. And of course, the police unions, firefighters unions, I mean, I can give you tons of examples. When I was a kid, I remember hearing about these firefighters that would, and you can look this up. This has been researched a couple times since I brought them up on panel. Will go to a burning house and set up lawn chairs and just drink beer and watch it burn down because they've been on strike and they're trying to like emphasize how much the community needs them. That's the kind of stuff that just really turns me off the direction that public sector unions can take if they're not checked.
Yeah,
Let's
and
go-
if yeah,
well, let's
go
go
ahead,
back
Joe.
to it and then hit you back.
Okay.
This might be somewhat along the same line. So Rez was totally right when he talked about how corporations have a duty to their shareholders, right? That's why they're set up. That's the implicit contract. In the same way that unions have a equal duty to their members, right? A union has basically the exact same kind of strict, zealous duty to their members as a company has to its shareholders, as an attorney has to their client, yada, yada, yada. Now, like we talked about in the private sector, that was brought up a couple times. Sure, right? Like when you have these organizations that are sort of compelling higher wages, compelling more say and governance in the workplace, they're impacting the profit margins, they're impacting like the job availability, they're impacting the way that the owner of the company is running, which is the shareholders are running that company, right? The stuff that, first of all, they put the material into. But my understanding, again, was this is about public sector unions. And so what does that mean when you take that exact same concept and you apply it to a public sector union, right? You have public sector unions that are solely concerned with the representation of their members. They're not concerned with the representation of the voters. They don't care. They're not particularly concerned with democracy. They are strictly there for how can I benefit our members the most? That's the whole goal. And I mean, how does this idea in a public setting not just like fundamentally anti-democratic, right? You have a organization who is tasked with trying to, basically fight against the will of the voter and how they're setting up these government agencies. You have police unions that do this all the time. And I mean, it's most evident with police unions because most of the time when they get involved in like the higher optics setting, it's because somebody was killed. But every public sector union does the same thing, just in more subtle ways. To me, that seems highly authoritarian.
What democracy?
Can I respond to that?
The people who vote in, like the public, right? We're talking about public teachers. We're talking about public, sector employees. Okay. My opinion is, if we live in a democracy, shouldn't their governance and shouldn't their compensation packages be dictated by the voter, by the representatives?
Fuck that.
Okay, so I don't think this is a contradiction with the voter, right? Like, whoever said it earlier that this is more to do with like, the question isn't like, are unions good or bad? The question is like, are these federal unions doing what they need to be doing? Like, are they doing good things, right? And from that analysis, like, the answer actually is, it depends on which one you're talking about, right? And I don't think that like the police union is in like, I don't think the construct is like, are they against voters? I don't think that's the dichotomy. Like, I think this has a lot more to do with culture, like someone else said.
It's not
the culture, but you see, like, I don't know, from my opinion, right? The way that the police unions operate doesn't shock me, because this is a culture of LEO, right? Police officers that kind of have this tendency, regardless, to be very insular and very antithetical to what the voter, quote unquote, is doing, right? That seems to be consistent with police officer culture. So which is not present when you're talking about, let's say, State Department union employees.
Let's have counterpoints, because you hit him up. So let's have counterpoints respond to
culture,
that.
bro.
And then you can go back to it. You can respond to all of that.
Yeah.
And Aiko, I think you said you wanted to jump in. So yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why, like the main critique of law enforcement unions that I've heard so far tonight, and maybe you could come up with another one, is that they protect bad employees, which is the same criticism of what we have for teachers unions. So I don't know, like it's just that with a teacher, the kids are uneducated and you don't see that until 30 years later. And with a cop, if they fuck up, they kill someone. Like that's the problem. And the answer to this isn't to disband the union or to say unions are bad. The answer to this is to, as complicated as this solution is to shift from a combative model to an inquisitive model. This is something that supposedly has been talked about in like Europe, where their judicial system isn't a combative model where you have lawyers fighting over like, no, I'm going to 100% back my client. He didn't do anything wrong, even though I know he's a child rapist. Like, I'm going to, defend him to the death, like tooth and nail, like all that kind of shit. Some of them actually have inquisitive models where it's actually about finding out what actually occurred. And so you could go to the police union, or you could force it through federal fiat once, a few more black men get killed. And then you could say that, like, hey, we're done with you defending shitbags against, basically bad behavior. We want bad cops fired. You are now going to go from, as a representative of the law enforcement officers, from a combative model to an inquisitive model, where if you find out that a police officer was acting poorly, you have to shit can him, and, maybe they can hire a lawyer, but they can't work as law enforcement anymore.
You're ignoring the incentives.
So we got it. I said lactoid.
What incentive?
Yeah, so like there are
chance to respond. And just very quickly, guys, we're in a hype train. That's awfully kind. I literally just noticed this because I was too enthralled with.
That's what I was telling you earlier.
Oh, is that what you're trying to
First!
say? Oh, okay. Well, Naritas, thank you for the bits, and then Desperado Sensei, thank you for the subs, and I'm missing someone, but guys, thank you so much. We're a level 2 hype train, 3% down, 97% left, 1 minute on the clock. Can we get to a level 3 hype train? Please support the channel if you like this content. Sub to the channel, give subs. Thank you. All right, so let's go to Lactoid so you can respond to that. And Scott, you're on the list. Yeah.
So a couple things. The first thing is I agree there's like a perverse incentive here because we can't and this is one of the reasons why the adversarial model is great, is because we can't reasonably expect that people put in these positions of extreme bias are going to be able to approach things with like an inquisitive nature as opposed to an adversarial sort of back and forth that we currently have. These unions are made up, they get dues from their members. They're made up of their members. And we can say, well, then they shouldn't represent their members to the same extent they do. And if you want to take away some of the legal power to do that, I think I'm not going to oppose you too much. It sounds like that's just kind of disempowering the union or making the union be a little bit more objective. Which, if we want to implement anything in order to do that, I'm in favor of that. But I'm not just criticizing like the bad employee. I think that's fair. I think it's a perfectly fair criticism, especially when it comes to police or teachers or anything like this. And I would like to see more policies put into place that would allow these bad employees to be gotten rid of. But it's more about the underlying principle of who controls the government. Is it the people who vote and the representatives, or is it like the established order, kind of like the quote unquote deep state that exists within like as organizations within the government that are largely immune from the voter input and largely immune from representatives and dictate things like what power employees have, what kind of governance ability do they have, what are their wages, what are their compensation packages? Shouldn't their compensation packages be determined by the voter, the very person who's paying them? I mean, it certainly would make sense to me, but right now, as it is, you have organizations that are deeply embedded in the government that are dictating those terms to the voter. It seems totally flipped.
I was very dismissive.
Before you respond, guys, because of counterpoints, right? The guy is about to talk, right? Gifting 5 subs, we're at 68% of level 2 hype train. We're getting very close, 72%. Sorry, 32% left. Before level 3 hype train, help save the hype train. Subs to channel, give subs. You get ad-free viewing, and you'll get our emotes and you get all the good stuff, and you'll be more of this will happen. So thank you to our buddy Counterpoints. 90 seconds on the clock. Let's see if we can make it to a level 3 hype train. Go ahead, Counterpoints.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, listen, just because the panel scene has taken a hit doesn't mean that we're not still having fucking fun debating with our goddamn friends, getting stoned on a fucking, what is it? Is it Monday night? Monday night, having fun, bullshitting. So come on, fucking help a brother out. And then Lactoid, like I kind of just like laughingly dismissed it earlier, but I'll tell you my direct problem. People want all of the things. They want police officers who know MMA and who know CPR and who know first aid and who are well trained and de-escalate, and they have nice cars and they have a 3-minute response time and fucking blah 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 blah. They don't want to fucking pay for that shit. Nobody wants to fucking pay for that shit. Nobody so what's going to happen is when you democratically do people's salaries, if I could fucking vote on Fabian Liberty's salary, I would vote negatively. I would actually I would force him to pay for the ability to work. So if that's
not surprising
what I
considering
want to
you're
do,
pro theft.
Yeah, see, exactly. You don't leave it to the average citizen to determine what's going on.
I don't understand.
Well, this is like all public policy.
I want to enslave Fabian Liberty. That's what I just said.
I know. So this is all
let me
public
jump
policy.
Let me jump in.
Respond real quick. I just want to respond really quick. So this is all public policy. The argument that voters are going to want a good product for less money. I understand that, but that's up for the representatives to hash it out, right? So you have the group of people who are we think the police officers are overfunded and they're not doing they're doing too much. Maybe they might vote for the party that says reduce.
I was not simping for money, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Leaving this up to
it'll help us catch back up.
Insulated organization.
I appreciate you.
Public sector unions who are dictating those terms to the representatives. At the very least, you have to admit is highly anti-democratic. It seems like you almost said that just now. You don't want this to be left up to the voter.
I don't like democracy. You're right. I'm a
Republic.
It's not
a question of democracy.
I like republic.
So let me.
I don't understand the implementation of
let's Scott in.
Yeah, so I know that you would vote to take away my money, and that's why we shouldn't have votes on people's jobs, right? That's why this should all be fucking privatized. Public
Wrong.
policing is fucking retarded. And so, Dave Smith has a really funny bit about this in his Libertas special, right? Where, he talks about someone saying, the police work for us. And he said, well, okay, go outside and start ordering some cops around. NYPD loves that shit, right? Like, they don't fucking work for you. They work for the state. They're honorless mercenaries that work for the government, right? By definition, they cannot have honor. It's impossible for a police officer to be an honorable person. And
Define honor, friend.
I don't care about the honor part. I care.
But
I agree that
Alu, I'm going to finish this up real quick, right? So the problem here is that you guys are talking about culture. You're talking about like how's a good way to do this, and you're completely ignoring the incentives, right? You're completely ignoring the only thing we can actually talk about, which is praxeological positions, right? Human action. What are the incentive structures? The incentive is that you have a state monopoly that uses taxpayers' money, and then you have those individuals negotiating for your tax-paying money and for their positions. And so what you're doing is you're separating it even more from the Democratic or the Republican process when you allow these individuals to negotiate with other individuals who don't have any skin in the game other than the fact that they might get voted out. But of course, enough corporate money won't stop that from fucking happening.
That's not.
Hold on, Alu,
it's an intrinsically broken system.
Okay, so here's number one. Honor is your basically your personal conduct following a certain set of values. So if you're acting within line with your values, you can be honorable. And by the way, there's plenty of
police officers definitionally fail that.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Okay, and then stupid. So sanitation.
I'm not going to shut the fuck up. It's a fact.
Okay, well, I'm telling you to shut the fuck up for the next 20 seconds. Okay, that's super stupid. So now
it's objectively true.
Well, let me point out something that's fucking stupid with the other thing that you said. So sanitation workers, county sanitation workers also work for me. Should I go to the sanitation department and then start telling them how to do their jobs? Should I walk around and be like, hey, bro, as a matter of fact, what you should do is scoop the shit out of the filtration system and throw it into the clean water, because that would be like a more efficient way of doing your job. They work for me too. So should they listen to me when I'm giving them orders because they work for me?
I don't. So
again,
because that's fucking retarded. That's like a retarded thing you said.
Exactly. Yeah. You think you're twisting my
really
logic
dumb.
When it's counterpoints.
No, I'm not, because the sanitation workers work for me. Why shouldn't they listen to what I say?
You think you're twisting my logic on its head, right? But what I advocate for is the only thing that gets rid of these contradictions, which is privatizing those positions so that they're employees.
Okay.
Right? The absurdity is having the government and democracy in charge of
people be able to order around public employees because they feel like it, just because they're employed by them.
Right. Counterpoints. Are you fucking retarded? What I'm pointing out is that the absurdity of the phrase that these people work for you, because they don't work for you. Because if you go around and start bossing them around, not only will that not work, it would be stupid.
Do they work to your benefit, where you have clean water and a relatively secure society and educated children?
Do they work to my benefit?
Yes, sure. All day, every day. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like, and like that doesn't actually say anything. Okay. Some things can be partially to my benefit and still like an incestuous relationship based off of stolen money. So like, if we want to say like, yeah, if we're taking a consequentialist analysis of like what good things I get, maybe, but it's all gotten with money stolen. So I guess no, they don't work to my benefit if you track it back far enough, because they're required to work via theft.
Okay, so knowing most voters don't take the stance of tax is literally theft, and any structure that exists.
I don't give a fuck about argument ad populum. Right? Like, I don't give a fuck about the popularity of an idea.
You're talking about incentives, right? You're talking about structures in society. At some point, it matters what the majority of people are operating on if you want to use leverage effectively. If you really want this, where like you want a taxless society or whatever like thing this utopia you're trying to build, at some point you still have to deal with the reality of inner politics.
Utopia.
Well, okay, but your argument against this is utopian. Yes, taxes, theft, okay, assuming that's true. These are still organizations that exist today that you have to figure out, is this like something that is providing more net good than bad? And that should be where the argument is, right? Like at the end of the day, I think
so I want to
there are
reduce. I
some
want to
unions
reduce the
that
problem.
are,
Right. So the way that
but
you reduce
I
the
don't
problem
even
is
know
by
if we
banning
agree on what the
public
problem
sector
is.
unions, right?
We
Because
don't.
they're negotiating for additional theft.
I'm not even sure what like exactly. Okay, so theft, bad, right? But what is your essential issue with public unions specifically? Because I would imagine you have this take on any sector.
I have this take on any sector. I have a take that
Right.
like,
If we were
private
talking
unions
theft
about
is
any
bad, yes.
other,
Theft
so
is
then
bad.
okay.
Yeah. What are you
Okay, so
talking about?
all our forms of economics that rely on theft are bad. What makes this so much worse than all the other things?
Because you have a public monopoly, right? And then you have individuals that are incentivized to argue for additional theft on their own behalf that are allowed to then go to the government that is not an employer to argue for additional theft on their behalf. I want to reduce theft. One of the best ways to reduce theft is, I don't know, stop having people go into private meetings to talk about what we should do about policing or teachers, etc., that are arguing for additional theft.
It's not just
That
pay,
was
it's
the other
also
thing that you
it's also
said.
protections, right? So like, for example, police unions like will like acquire protections for their members, so the public is limited in being able to fire them. The public is limited in like what kind of charges they can pursue against police officers. I mean, if anybody's
If these
deciding
are
what these
negotiated with
positions should be,
representatives, what's your problem with that? If these are negotiated with elected representatives, if they're negotiated with the fucking mayor and the city manager, then what's the fucking
right,
problem?
because here's the issue, right? These public sector unions like give money to those same people that are running. So you have like a direct financial interest between the
And
government.
private institutions give them money, so they basically cut funding so they can reduce their taxes.
But private organizations don't have public employees. That's like the deal here. So it's not just about the
you're
money.
right, but they have
It's
the
also
ability
about
to cut taxes,
No, no,
which
it-
is still an incentive for them.
right. We can talk
So
about
you're not
cutting
talking
taxes.
about that.
We can talk about cutting taxes in a second. But my point here is about the governance, right? So about like the legal protections. You're not having like private organizations like these, like setting these legal protections for these public employees. The government is doing that, and that government is being funded by those public sector employees that they're benefiting. Like it's like the most clear cut.
It's incestuous.
The most clear cut like tit for tat. Like you give me money, and then I'm gonna like represent your interests with your employees, who are also happen to be the people who work for me and who also just gave me money for my election.
What if it's
very direct?
Okay, so you're not dealing with the actual question, which
Technically,
is
that's
if it's
illegal, though, just to be
effective,
fair.
then there shouldn't be a problem, right? If a state, right, says, okay, we're gonna do this way, and then there is also a union, a public union, who says, hey man, we need better conditions for the workers, the employees who are working for you, the state. And then as a result of that, they get better conditions, and then you get more output. Is that not worse?
If
that
people
better?
if people voluntarily choose, right? If people voluntarily choose to join we can call it a public sector union, if you will, right? To take some of their money that they make, right, and put it into an organization that wants to convince regular people of the needs of teachers. I don't like obviously I have a problem with like the public job, but there's no inherent contradiction there. We're not talking, what we're talking about is those people going to the state itself, right? The representatives, as opposed to the voter, to go
the
to
elected
be a
representatives who are
to
accountable
be
for
a-
elections.
I don't even know what
to
you're
be
saying.
to
Who
be
going
to
to
conflict
the
with
state themselves?
those things, right?
Wait,
Like,
conflict with what things? When you're talking about
are
like
you
state
for
union
corporate
employees.
lobbying? Are you
Jesus
for corporate
Christ.
lobbying?
Just please answer my question.
Are you
Who
for
are the
corporate
they?
lobbying?
Please
Are you
answer
for
my
corporate
question.
lobbying?
Like you're answering my question.
I'll answer
as
your
like a
question if
tactic.
you answer my question.
No,
Are
I'm
you
just
for
going to ask
corporate
you my
lobbying?
question that you are currently trying to dodge.
I will answer your question once you answer my question.
Are
Are
you
you
5
for
years old?
corporate lobbying?
Dude.
Are you for
Say
corporate lobbying?
sure. Just say yes or no. Holy shit.
There is a clear dynamic here.
Do you
have a
think large
state
corporations
that
should be able to
employs
lobby state
workers,
officials?
and then those workers either desire a better structure in their
All right.
day-to-day lives or
Just
better
answer the
conditions
question.
for them. Bro, like you're asking me to answer this question so that you can dodge the point that I'm making right now.
No, I'm doing it so I can show that you have a lack of consistency in principles, and the fact that you're too much of a pussy to answer it proves it already.
The idea of conflating lobbying in government with unions is absurd, and that is why I'm not addressing your question, because I see the
Right.
gotcha. The idea that these are the
Exactly.
same
You
things,
see that you have no
they're only
principles, and
similar,
yet you
in
still
that
stick
they are
into your
courting
guns.
the state. What do you mean no principles? What does it mean to
Are
have no
you
principles?
for corporate
honor.
I want to
You
know
have
what
no
the
honor,
definition you're
Alu!
operating on. I apparently have no honor. What does it mean to have no principles?
Are you for corporate
He's
lobbying?
just asking if you think that teachers unions should be able to lobby for higher wages, and if so, are you also for corporations being able to do that? It's a very simple question.
Again, right? They are not the same beast. You were
Well, why don't
talking
you
about
just say yes or no? Because basically, I would have said yes. We already let private
and the
corporations.
resentment
why would I
seeps
bother with
in.
with a
They're
premise that I
different because
fundamentally disagree with.
reasons.
Okay, I think you're getting
Oh, fuck.
autistic. You could just
Yeah.
bite the bullet. I don't think it would
Lobbying
matter.
is constitutionally guaranteed activity anyway. It's in the First Amendment. You have the right
Right.
to petition your government. No
Well, this is
matter
the
who
problem
you
with
are.
public, like unions. Like if you
Now,
want
whether or
what-
not you can spend limitless money doing that is a different question.
I
You have
think-
the
I
right
mean,
to lobby.
I think
I
one
don't
of the
give a
questions
fuck
is
about the
if
Constitution.
If
but
you want,
fair enough.
okay, I give a fuck about the Constitution. That's a different question.
Me too.
I care a lot about the Constitution, but
I didn't sign it.
I know. I think that if you I mean, look, if you want something from the public, right? If you want something from the government, right? Leaving all the very true but kind of sticking on the subject, tax or theft memes aside, you should just write to your representative, right?
Again,
What you shouldn't do is what's currently allowed, which is you have public sector unions that are allowed in some states to go on strike, right? Just stop working, and the public can't fire them for that. Imagine that, a public sector employee who can't be gotten rid of. Isn't that crazy? Does that bother
Wait,
anybody?
do you understand like the purpose of striking though, which is basically using leverage in order to get better wages and conditions?
By not doing your job, of course.
But
Okay, look, if
striking
your job
counterpoints.
was worth it.
There's
you
a
could-
substantive difference between striking when you have the threat of being fired and striking and then not being able to be fired, right? If you're striking against a company because let's say your job is paying you, everyone's getting paid, let's say $13 to $15 an hour, right? And you believe that the labor is actually worth $15 to $17 an hour and the company's fucking you over, right?
Okay,
If you
so-
strike, right? Then what the company understands is that they've lost value, which means they have to replace you. If you're easily replaceable and they can just fire you, that means you weren't worth 15 to 17 an hour. You're just bullshitting and you just want more money, but that's not actually the marginal value of your fucking
There's
labor.
so much
But-
rhetoric.
Right? That is just a
Dude,
fact
I
of the
didn't
matter.
want to argue about like labor relations in the fucking 19th century. Like you literally like you walk us back.
Who
Like,
brought up
all
the
way
19th
back to, like,
century?
Your
You did.
fucking understanding of labor negotiations. I don't want to go back to the 1880s where I have to send my fucking kid down into the coal
Sounds
mine
like you're
in order
bringing
to
up
get enough-
irrelevant shit to pivot because
No,
you realize that I just pinned your ass against
Wait,
the wall.
Even in the
Shut the
1880s, we're
fuck
talking about like
up.
private sector unions. We're talking
Yeah.
about the public, right? We're talking about people with public positions who are like quote unquote.
Bro,
working
I've
for the
already
people,
Lactoid,
and they
I
can't
already
be gotten rid
heard-
of.
I heard your point. I don't give a fuck about your
Yeah,
point.
Yeah,
the reason why I don't give a fuck about your point.
deny the voter.
The
because
reason,
they
yes,
should get more
because
money.
fuck the voter, but also,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
but besides that, besides fuck
Take
democracy,
their money and fuck them all day, yeah.
no, you don't fuck them all day. You create a system that actually works for everybody. You believe
When you
work
take
on
their
things.
money and don't work, you're fucking them.
Okay, if they let's say that the teachers, for instance, this is what's happening in Florida right now. They had like a guarantee of like students at like 28 students per fucking class. I don't think they've had that since like I don't know 2004. Then on top of that, they have to buy their own
Sounds
materials
like
because they're not. Hold
No
on,
Child
shut the
Left
fuck
Behind
up.
worked.
Shut the fuck up, dude. You're triggering the fuck out of me.
Eventually.
All right. Anyways, and by the way, No Child Left Behind was a good policy.
was a joke.
Okay. Anyways, so the point being that people working for like substandard fucking salary have to buy their own fucking materials, are working extra hours that they're unpaid for. There's no such a fucking thing as OT. They're lucky that they get medical, dental, and retirement. And then they basically get shit on by the entire fucking society while having to teach classes of 50 that they were guaranteed to be 28. And there's no recourse with the fucking government because the government says there's literally nothing else we can do. We can't hire enough people. We can't get enough. And the taxpayers don't want to foot the bill. Fuck you. This is about as good as it fucking gets. So at that point, they don't have any goddamn leverage, and the only leverage they do have is a strike. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that in Florida, they created the bylaws where they can't fucking strike without notice. So as a result, they're okay, yeah, and there hasn't been a fucking strike in 20 years, and the fucking the circumstances continue to deteriorate because they don't have any leverage. So, as a result, you're saying, isn't it fucked up that you can get paid in order to do your job? I say it's fucked up that the government and the voters in the state of Florida have said, I don't want to have a 1% increase on my fucking property taxes. As a result, let's let an entire generation be raised retarded. Like, so, yeah, sorry. Like, I'm not okay with this system. And if workers pile together in order to say our value is worth something and we're going to make your lives worse if you don't give us living conditions and working conditions that are actually doing it, yeah, then we're going to fucking leave for 3 or 4 days and you're going to have to take care of your own fucking kids. And then you can politically pressure your representatives to give us a better fucking wage.
Where's like the natural stop to this? So, like, for example, like when the air traffic controllers were fired by Reagan, right? They were told they couldn't strike it. They decided to strike.
Alu,
anyway.
he already had the fucking answer to you. I don't know if you heard it. Where did Alu go?
I may have not. He appears to not be here right now.
He had a thing happen.
Yeah. So
fucking hell.
He was the
only
How many more people can I run off today?
So I'm gonna keep on going with it then because he's not here to
Lactoid,
tell me that
I'll answer your question when you're done.
So the actual demand made by the air traffic controllers was insane. Right? When you actually look at it, it would have made them either the first or the second highest paid federal employees in the country. Their benefits package would have been just absolutely unaffordable. And they were demanding all this extra shit. And they were saying like, look, you better give us this shit, right? Otherwise we're going to walk off. They were told you can't legally do that. And they did, and they were fired. Now, if you are put in a situation where public sector unions can strike and they don't get removed from power, or they can't get they can't get fired, then where's like the logical endpoint? Like the value of like the services that public employees are providing should never be determined by those people. Of course, everyone's going to think their job is like the most important thing ever.
Can I take a stab at that?
You can, iCow, but then I do have Alu's answer that I want to give as well.
Okay, so here's my answer. Like, at least in the when it comes to teachers' unions, if teachers sort of demand compensation packages and lack of accountability rules and things like that, if they were too successful, what would happen is, because I've seen it happen in district after district, is private sector schools would start attracting more students because their model would work better. And because we're talking about charter schools. Charter schools are everywhere now, like at least here in Texas. And I know there's a lot of other states where that's happening.
Florida and Arizona are the big ones.
Charter schools generally don't perform better than public schools because public school teachers, just the model seems to be working better. But if you the stop that you're talking about is if these sorts of policies get to the point where these public schools cannot function, then taxpayers or I'd say property owners would revolt because their property values go down. I worked in a school that had the best salary in North Texas for teachers, and the reason that they kept hiking those salaries time after time after time was because the people in that city wanted their property values to be high, and they didn't want to lose value in their homes, and they saw education as a way of attracting people to that area and raising the right amount of property taxes as well. Like the municipality was able to raise more money that way. So those incentives are there, and the logical stopping point is that you start losing that tax income because people start moving. They start being attracted to other school districts or even other forms of education.
Okay, and then I want to give Alu's answer before, since he's not here to give it, before anybody else goes. So it's called political corporatism or corporatism. It's where you think of institutions as bodies, and there's coherent wholes. So when you have basically like a union, it can't kill the institution it's a part of, because if it kills the institution it's a part of, it loses its incentive to exist, which is basically provide for the benefit of its employees. So it has to act within a certain level of homeostasis with its fucking hosts in order to survive. So as a result,
What?
those demands were probably fucking stupid. And what happened to them? They got fucking removed. They got their shit kicked in. Just because you come up with one bad example over the course of history where unions were demanding too much shit and they got their shit rocked doesn't mean that there still isn't a required part of society for workers to collectivize against the fucking interests of a corporation in order to make sure that at minimum they can
public.
have a normal life.
The corporation here is the public. They are organizing against the interests of the public, right? When you just said against the corporation, when we're talking about public sector unions, it's telling because you're right. They're organizing against the interests of the corporation in a private setting, and they're organizing against the interests of the public in a public setting.
Do you think that most teachers and cops like wake up and they're like, oh yeah, I became a teacher and a cop so I could go to fucking Tahiti on a public subsidized
Irrelevant.
vacation? Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Deal with the argument.
It's way more nuanced than that, right?
What's the argument?
It's waking up every day thinking I deserve more, and and then the natural ramifications that come from that. And there are other examples, by the way, of union.
And you know what they do now? They just leave for the private sector. That's all they do.
Demanding way too much, right? I mean, look at Illinois, like the famous side of Janus. In Illinois, their fucking retirement obligations are so great that they can't fucking afford it. And like the interest payments are bankrupting them. And like the whole fucking state is fucked financially because of the public sector unions and what they did to that state. You can look that up. All that's public information. Really quick to ICO, there's 3 points I wanted to quickly respond with. The first point is, and I'm sure this was relevant, the United States spends far more per student than the OECD average. There's only a few countries spend more than us. It's not an issue that we're not, doling out a fuck ton of money, and the taxpayers probably have like a pretty solid reason to be concerned about where all this money's going when we're dumping like a fuck ton of money, over $14,000 per student, into the students, and we're not the results we're getting are not nearly as comparable with countries that are doing a lot better than us and spending a lot less. Second, it's open question whether or not charter schools and private schools can outperform public schools. There's some evidence to suggest that they're much more cost effective when it comes to actually educating kids. They can do roughly the same job for dramatically less. And I think that's also a concern the taxpayers have.
Well, it's important.
And public sector unions actively argue against private schools. They try to ban them. They try to ban charter schools. They actively argue against vouchers. They try to politically circumvent vouchers, which is parents trying to decide, again, on the very base level, where they can send their kids.
Okay, this is a fucking headshot. I've been waiting for you to wrap it up so I can ask you. So all the OECD fucking countries that have better educational outcomes and less dollars, what's their models? Do they have unions? Do they have government protections for teachers? Do they have higher than average salaries?
Yeah. So, anyways, the problem with
just walk by that one.
No.
The
taxpayers probably aren't concerned there, but the same way they are in Florida.
No, the problem with counterpoints and this discussion about the idea of private schools and the efficiency of private schools is you have to recognize that every American is taxed roughly $4,000 per person to support public schooling. Right. And depending upon the amount of money that's spent on a child is somewhere between $11,000 to $25,000 a year per school age child in your district, depending upon obviously New York City is going to be way more than Mississippi or something. Right. So when we're talking about a system that is competing against public schools, right, they're competing knowing that everyone that sends their kid to these private schools is just throwing if they have a school age child, they're throwing, depending on how you want to look at the data, $4,000, $11,000, $20,000 away to put their children in a private school that's working an uphill battle despite this other system being quote unquote free. Right, so it's it's not really a fair comparison.
I also
no. My point was that the OECD, all the other fucking larger countries like Japan and Germany and Europe and France and all that kind of shit, they probably have super strong fucking teachers unions and they probably have really good government benefits. That was my point. So if you're gonna say that they have better educational outcomes and they have less cost, then what the fuck is up with our goddamn
where the fuck is the money? Then where the fuck is the money going? Look, if they're blowing a bunch of fucking money on dumb shit, then I think the taxpayers have a right to be more concerned in Florida than they do in Japan. If Japan is able to do what unions promise to do, but do it with less money and get better outcomes.
Sure.
Right?
You know what? And
also,
here's where I'll
also
concede.
counterpoints.
There's administrative. Hold on, I want to concede before you fucking say some other shit that's gonna trigger the fuck out of me. So,
man, you're really easily triggered.
I know it's you. You're just fucking. You're oil to my water. So anyways, the point being that like it's probably administrative bloat. That's probably what it is. So to concede to you, this money should be going to teachers. It should be going to students. It should be going to materials. It should be going to updating, shit. And instead, it's going back into administration and it's going back into the fucking union itself. So there's a perverse incentive right now. So if you wanted to come up with a different system to hold them accountable in which to break up this money and get it where it actually needs to go, I'm all fucking ears for that shit.
Yes.
But I'm not going to do that at the choice of like either banning it totally or saying that it doesn't serve a function.
A better so vouchers, right? A better option here is vouchers, right? Private education
Hey,
and charter schools consistently like can do either like roughly the same with considerably less, because they're driven by a profit model, and so they actually have an incentive to cut administrative bloat in ways that public education simply doesn't.
But you also know that there's a whole bunch of fucking voucher. I'll shut up, ICAO, in a second, I promise. So there's also problems with charter schools, where plenty of charter schools have really good reputations that they earn through the voucher system. I actually like the voucher system because I think it mixes the private market and the fucking public system, where there's incentives in order to hold people accountable and develop correct institutions. And all that kind of stuff.
Would you call it a public-private partnership, maybe? Like a marriage of the corporation and the state?
Position. Yeah. So anyways.
Fucking fascist.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyways, the point being, like a pro-gay fascist. So the point being that like there's also problems with charter schools though, where they show up, they fly by night, they basically set up a business, they hyper leverage the fuck out of it with debt, they don't take care of their students, they basically pay for all the cheap shit, and then they disappear and declare bankruptcy and basically get to fucking disappear and take millions of dollars off of the fucking government teat. So you can't just pretend that it's a one-size-fits-all solution.
Well, there's one other problem.
I just wanted to point out,
there
was just a stat I wanted to point out, like, because I was trying to said it would trigger counterpoints, but like Japan is actually having like a lot of problems with their teachers because they're overworked and they can't find enough teachers. But fair enough, we want to look at just outcomes. I understand the conservative
just white countries.
I mean, but the thing is, that's
family values consequentialist.
Yeah, no.
You know,
the thing is, the overwork in Japan is very directly results of their work culture to begin with. That has like across all sectors a literal grinding. It makes America look like a pleasant almost, right? Like that's like you're expected to be at work for 13 or 14 hours a day, doing nothing for hours upon hours. That then you go get drunk, you wake up and you do it all again. Like that's the culture there to begin with, is grinding. I don't think that the union's presence in Japan, or like just generally working in Japan, you know, the suicide rate and everything like that, is anything more than just the culture there.
Let's go to Aiko.
Yeah, so listen,
well,
there's
the birth
another
rates,
problem with these
should
private
become
schools
easier,
and
but
charter
okay.
schools and stuff like that, and that is that they get to cherry pick their students, and that's a big one. Like that's a really massive differential.
Yeah, we need that
because what they do is
need to be able to expel kids.
If they pull kids out, and some of them turn out to be special needs, they just return those back to the public sector schools. And then when their test scores, if their test scores aren't generally higher, which is they should be because they're cherry picking schools, something's compensating for that. But to the extent that their scores are higher, they can say, oh, it's because our education is better. And in fact, it wouldn't be in those cases. It would just be that they're only picking the higher performing students and pulling them out of the public schools. And so what ends up happening is people start sending their kids to these private and charter schools, expecting their performance to rise compared to where they were before, and they're not rising. They're staying the same at best, or they're going down. And so I think what needs to happen is some kind of standardization where these public and private charter schools. This is a school I worked for instance, that offered a special kind of education, higher levels of education, but we picked our students by lottery. And so there was no way for that sort of cherry picking to happen in that school. And that's one thing. And the other thing is that these charter schools, like if you were to have a voucher system, those vouchers wouldn't be enough to get your kid into those elite private schools, that prep schools that are getting 80% acceptance rate into into the top 3% of PSAT scores, whereas public schools get the top 3%. There's a reason for that. And so if you were to take that voucher and try to go to that school, let's say you have a $9,000 voucher, you would have to pay another $20,000 on top of that, something like that. So the only way that I could think of where a voucher system would work is if every school has to accept that as payment in full. Like,
Yeah,
that's the only fair way
what
to do it.
Sustainable Developmental Goals UN 2030 want, right? But so that they can force public-private partnerships and a means of making sure that diversity, equity, inclusion is in every single solitary school in America. Fuck that. Fuck school choice. It's a fucking cloak and dagger scheme to indoctrinate your children into Marxism. That being
Listen,
said,
those prep
this
schools,
idea-
those prep schools are
this
already
idea-
Marxist. I can tell you that right now.
this
It's a
idea
very strange phenomenon, but they're already
this
Marxist.
idea that like there's like, you know, oh well, these private schools are getting rid of like, you know, special needs students, and like that's the only, like, it's cope because they're not being fucking taken
They
care
don't
of in the
accept it to
public
begin with.
education system, right? Like, you know, the only systems that are actually good for those, as someone who actually has like an autistic son, right, that is in school at a very young age, and I have my IED and everything, if you want to black out his fucking name so I can prove it, right? They go and like they've got all kinds of fucking problems in these systems. The only thing that's good is like nearby is the Faison Center, which is fucking very expensive, yes, but is privatized and actually is able to deal with these situations in a competitive market. What you have is a non-competitive market that does the bare minimum, and then you have teachers and other people fighting against the taxpayer, against this monopolistic system to begin with. It's all fucking shit.
Bare minimum. I don't think you guys have ever walked into a fucking school and seen what happens on a day-to-day fucking basis. Like, I get it. Like, I saw some shitbag teachers on the wrong side of the fucking tracks who were basically teaching their elementary school kids to copy out of the workbook instead of actually like learning reading comprehension. That's absolutely a fucking thing. But that doesn't mean that in the next class over there isn't a fucking teacher busting balls in order to make sure that her kids are fucking literate. So like, to just say that like everyone is a fucking incompetent who's just like passing the buck is fucking crazy. Like, I don't think
No one's saying that. I understand that you like to take the elements and then turn them into straw man arguments, but nobody's saying every teacher is incompetent. Never said that. What we're saying is that the incentive structure doesn't incentivize people to be competent. So the only people that are competent are the people that deeply care, and then there are other people who don't give a
minimum
fuck.
Fucking 30 seconds got like 30 seconds to fucking go. Didn't you say that?
That's
shit,
what's
that, like, basically we were
incentivized is the bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
So under a realistic system, we should be able to fire teachers and cops more easily. We should be able to give teachers the opportunity to do better and therefore to earn more than their peers. We should be able to break up some of these federal monopolies of unions and therefore give more power to the people who are closer to the system at hand. This is what I'm hearing. I don't have a lot of argumentation. I'm bad at interrupting people, but I do see some gems in this, and that's why I keep going with this sort of shit.
If you want to,
in the trash heap.
if you want to improve this fucked up system of theft, right? As if that's something that I would ever want to do to begin with, and not just private shit. You can look at South Korea, right, and the way that they teach, with the way that they look at teachers. One of the things that they do is they bake in meritocracy into their systems, right? And I do think that this is probably better. And the way that they do this is that they reward financially teachers with better stats and with better reviews than they do other teachers. You know, I don't like, again, it's all based off of fucking theft, but I mean, like, if you guys want to fucking make the system better, there are pathways to doing that, but you have to get away from.
Don't do that with cops, though. Okay.
What? Better stats?
Yeah. Do not give them fucking bonuses for arresting more people, because they'll find motherfuckers to put in jail. Like, do not
fucking road pirates, man.
Yeah,
they'll be
do
fucking
not
looking
adopt
every
that system.
goddamn
Well, listen,
day.
here's the part.
I mean, they already do that to an extent, but yeah.
Here's the part where I do
Would be
agree with
worse.
Fabian. Like, I do think that, like, it is, if you look at the pay structure for teachers in most school districts in America, a first-year teacher pays very close to a 30-year teacher, because their priority is recruiting more teachers, because there's a desperate shortage, and so they need to pay people more straight off the bat in order to bring them in. And so no matter how much your performance is, no matter how long you've been on the job, no matter, like, I know so many people who work in public schools have grown their debate programs from 2 kids to 95, 120 kids, all of them like winning at tournaments and getting big scholarships to colleges and just being very successful, very high SAT scores, and they're not getting paid much more than just the average like teacher in the school. So I do agree that sort of flat incentive structure, or I should say non-incentive structure, that is happening in the public schools, that absolutely does need to get fixed. But I wouldn't say that that teachers unions have done much to improve that. I mean, they've been along for the ride, and for decades, and they had an opportunity, or they've had a part in changing these structures, and I just don't see them fighting for smaller class sizes and things like
The
that.
other problem that nobody, the kind of the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, especially when we talk about teachers unions, is that they have inherent political messaging. Right? And I brought this up in my opening statement, which is that unions in general tend to push communist rhetoric, but they have like NEA pushes social emotional learning, diversity, equity, inclusion teaching, and what you have is you have organizations that are primarily filled with activists, because that's what a union fucking organization is going to be, that is placed into a system of constant. What? Sorry, I'm smelling a dog fart from right beside me, and it's so rough. It just fucked up my old train of thought.
Us too.
But you said, like, when nobody's talking about the fucking the idea that, like, having them at the federal level and having them hosting dinners and luncheons with politicians and rubbing elbows with these people to have this relationship isn't just about the incestuous idea that the teachers unions are kind of working with the state to get wages for themselves, but they also have political ideologies that tend to be Marxist that they're trying to push into our government spaces and education when we're talking about teachers unions, which I think is important when the NEA has 3 million members.
Okay, so you brought up something important that I want to address real quick. I, and I think other people, including known neo-Nazi queen Lauren Southern, want conservatives to start participating in more progressive spaces because we feel like the entire culture has been conceded to the left. So when we're talking about education, when we're talking about teachers unions, when we're talking about all that kind of stuff, part of the reason is this is a self-perpetuating cycle where if you bring up meritocracy in an NEA meeting, you might get the side eye, and you're also not going to get, elected. People are going to shit talk you, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? The only way to fix that is to look at younger conservative men who have bachelor's degrees and saying it doesn't make you a pussy or a coward in order to be a teacher. As a matter of fact, it's important to be a leader and a mentor and a role model to the next generation. And you need to be in the schools because we're having all these problems with fights and underpayment and discipline and all of that kind of shit. And we actually need positive mask because we want to remember our butch gym lesbian teachers. We need our more masculine role models in our world to help balance out what's probably dominated by soft-handed liberals and progressives.
But yeah, here's the irony of this. You're not going to bring conservatives in to teach unless you pay more, because conservatives tend to respond more to salary in terms of how they take jobs, and the people on the left are more likely to go in for a whole host.
But this is part of the culture that I want to change. So, for instance, like I want to teach. As much as I use profane words and I say the N-word in private and all that kind of stuff. I want to teach in public school. I'm worried about being fired because I'm a little edgy on the internet. But also, like, I want to do it, but it's also the culture around me that's pushing me not to do it because I'm told you need to make money, support the family, pay the bills, all that kind of stuff. You have to be the provider, blah, blah, blah. Whereas if somebody just told me, hey, Connor, you're going to be broke as piss, but at the same time, I'll help you become a teacher, I would do that instantaneously. So the thing is, there are people who want to do it. There are people who are willing to take the financial hit, but we have this culture of, in order to be successful or revered as a man, you have to have a certain amount of status and bills paid and all that kind of crap. So I'm okay with you saying that it's like a cart and horse, which one's, or egg and chicken, which one comes first kind of thing. But I want to start with either one. I don't give a shit which one it is. I just want to start because I see how these negative impacts are affecting society.
Yeah, and there's this culture around teachers. There's this culture around teachers where you're expected to give and give and give and never get anything back. It's expected. And so for people who are more conservative, who have those values that you were just enumerating, like it's got to be that we have a more widely American culture, that you give a little bit more so that the culture can improve.
Yeah, I mean, like you might be able to get a little bit of that. The problem is still going to be interest in people versus interest in things, right? So teaching is always going to be less of a low valued position financially, right? Like you're never going to have like, I mean, sure, you might have some teachers that make a lot of money, but it's not going to be a very well paying job. I mean, unless you just force it via the state and try and make it that way with tax-paying dollars, right? But like the problem is it's interest in people, right? And so when you have an interest in people, like you're rewarded for that. And also it's one of the biggest differences between females and males. So it's almost always going to be predominantly dominated by females, right? So you're just going to, you can attempt to shift the culture a little bit in teaching, but for the most part, it's always going to be a more left-leaning and more female workspace, right?
But
and I don't know in our current political climate if that doesn't just create a rolling kind of like snowball effect where it just goes full-blown fucking Marxist at this point.
I had plenty of autistic fucking teachers who were male, and they were STEM, and they did chemistry and biology.
Hey guys,
and,
thanks for the raid. I'm in the middle of a panel. Currently, we're debating
what was
unions
the
and
other
public
one?
sector
Stock
unions.
And,
The next one is going to be tech
goddamn
layoffs.
history and all that kind of shit.
If you like politics,
so, yeah,
and,
like you're right.
and,
like people have to get in there and lead. So there
we're
needs
libertarian
to be
largest
young,
ANCAPs in
probably
the
male,
Twitch
but I'll
politics
take,
space.
butch, lesbian,
Currently on a debate panel. So I
who get
apologize
in
if I'm
there
not super
and they say,
engaged with
We're
chat.
going to make this more masculine. We're going to bring back dodgeball and kicking people in the nuts and thinking it's funny. And, basically, all I have is fucked up things to say at this point. We're going to bring back all these things. And if you're fighting in the hallways, we're going to jack you up. And we're going to institute discipline and other kind of things that are typically more conservative, so it can be a more balanced space where liberals and progressives and conservatives can kind of get by, and then maybe the culture will improve as a result downstream.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next panel.
You just watched a clip from our Twitch channel, Fabian Liberty. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe here on YouTube, or go ahead and give us a follow on twitch.tv/Fabian Liberty.